Life has a way of reminding us over and over again that control is often just an illusion. We plan, we organize, we try to hold all the pieces together, convinced that if we just do everything right, nothing will fall apart. But then the unexpected happens. A dream shatters, a relationship crumbles, a door closes, and suddenly we find ourselves standing in the wreckage of our best laid plans, wondering where it all went wrong. It's in these moments when our hands are empty and our hearts are heavy that we're faced with a choice. We can keep grasping, trying to force outcomes that are simply beyond our reach, or we can take a deep breath, let go, and trust in something greater than ourselves. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean that what we hope for doesn't matter. It means releasing the weight of what we cannot control so that we can carry what truly matters, the courage to keep going, the grace to accept what is, and the strength to face what comes next. There's a certain freedom in surrender, in recognizing that we were never meant to hold it all together on our own. Life is unpredictable, often messy, and undeniably complicated. But even in the chaos, there is a rhythm, a pattern that reveals itself when we stop trying to force every piece into place. Sometimes the very things we fear the most, the unanswered questions, the uncharted paths, the uncertain futures, are the spaces where the most profound growth happens. It's easy to trust when everything is going our way, but real trust is forged in the fires of uncertainty. It's when the answers don't come, when the waiting feels endless, when the darkness feels overwhelming. That's when trust is tested and refined, and somehow when we release our grip on what we cannot change, we find our hearts open to unexpected miracles, unseen possibilities, and a peace that doesn't depend on our circumstances. The truth is, we are all works in progress, navigating a world that often feels beyond our control. But maybe, just maybe, that's exactly where we're meant to be. Not holding the reins with white-knuckled fear, but opening our hands with quiet confidence. Trusting doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we start believing that even when life feels uncertain, even when we don't have all the answers, there is a path unfolding before us, one step at a time. Control is a comforting lie we tell ourselves, a fragile thread we cling to in a world that often feels unpredictable. We map out our lives with careful precision, convinced that if we follow the rules, make the right choices, and keep our guard up, everything will unfold exactly as we envision. But life has its own plans. The truth is, no matter how tightly we grip the reins, there will always be moments that slip through our fingers, moments that remind us that control was never truly ours to begin with. We struggle with this reality because uncertainty feels like vulnerability, and vulnerability is uncomfortable. It forces us to confront the unknown, to stand in a place where the outcomes are beyond our influence. And that is terrifying. But maybe the real challenge isn't the lack of control itself, but our fear of what will happen if we loosen our grip. We believe that if we don't hold everything together, everything will fall apart. But what if the opposite is true? What if, in our attempts to control every detail, we're actually holding ourselves back from something greater than we ever imagined? The beauty of trust is that it doesn't demand perfect circumstances. It invites us to step into the messiness of life with open hands and an open heart. It asks us to embrace vulnerability, not as a weakness, but as the birthplace of courage. Because when we accept that we can't control everything, we begin to focus on what we can control. Our attitude, our actions, our willingness to keep showing up even when the path is unclear. There's a quiet strength in surrender, a strength that whispers, even if I don't have all the answers, I will still move forward. It doesn't mean we stop caring or stop trying. It means we stop exhausting ourselves in the endless pursuit of certainty. And when we do that, we find something unexpected, not chaos, but peace. Not emptiness, but possibility. We discover that sometimes the most profound transformation happens not when we hold on tighter, but when we dare to let go. There's a moment in every storm when you have to decide whether you'll keep fighting the wind or let it carry you. Letting go feels counterintuitive, doesn't it? We've been taught that strength means holding on, pushing through, and never giving up, but sometimes real strength is found in the quiet decision to release what was never ours to control. It's not about giving up, it's about recognizing that no matter how fiercely we fight, some things are simply beyond our reach. And that's not failure, that's life. We cling to the illusion of control because it makes us feel safe. We believe that if we try hard enough, plan well enough, and care deeply enough, we can bend life to our will. But then reality steps in. A sudden change, an unforeseen challenge, a door that won't open no matter how many times we knock, and we're left with a choice. Keep exhausting ourselves in a battle we can't win, or surrender to what is and trust that, even in the uncertainty, we are not alone. Letting go is terrifying because it feels like free falling into the unknown. But what if that free fall is where we learn to fly? What if releasing our grip on the things we can't control isn't the end, but the beginning of something we never expected? Letting go doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we stop carrying what was never ours to hold. It means we stop trying to force outcomes and start allowing life to unfold in its own time, in its own way. There is power in that choice. Power in saying, I will do what I can, but I will not lose myself trying to control what I cannot. It's a moment of truth, a moment of courage. And when we take that step, when we finally release the weight we were never meant to carry, we find something we never thought possible: freedom. Not freedom from challenges or heartaches, but freedom from the exhausting need to control them. And in that freedom, we find peace, strength, and the quiet assurance that even when life feels uncertain, we are exactly where we need to be. Letting go is one of the hardest things we'll ever do, not because we don't want to, but because deep down, we equate letting go with giving up. We think that if we release control, it means we've stopped caring, stopped trying, stopped hoping. But that's not the truth. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about making space for what's meant to be. It's about recognizing that while our hearts may be invested, our hands will have to cling so tightly. There's a delicate balance between effort and surrender, and most of us spend our lives leaning too far into effort. We pour every ounce of ourselves into managing, fixing, controlling, believing that if we don't, everything will fall apart. But there comes a point when holding on becomes more painful than letting go. And in that moment, we learn a profound lesson. We can care deeply and still release control. We can dream boldly and still trust the timing. We can hope fiercely and still accept that some outcomes are beyond our reach. Letting go doesn't mean we stop believing in what's possible. It means we stop forcing what isn't meant to be forced. It's about showing up, doing our part, and then releasing the outcome with an open heart. It's acknowledging that while we can plant the seeds, we cannot control the rain. And in that surrender, there's a strange and beautiful freedom. We stop wasting energy on what we can't change and start investing it in what we can: our mindset, our actions, our resilience. The truth is, we don't let go because it's easy. We let go because it's necessary. Necessary to find peace, to find clarity, to find ourselves. And when we do, we discover that we never had to carry it all alone. Letting go isn't giving up. It's choosing to believe that even in uncertainty, even in the unknown, there's a plan unfolding that's bigger than anything we could have controlled. And that belief, that's where real strength begins. There is a quiet, undeniable freedom in surrender, something most of us resist because it feels like defeat. We've been taught to believe that strength means holding it all together, managing every detail, controlling every outcome. But real strength isn't found in the tight grip of control. It's found in the open hands of surrender. There's an unexpected power in saying, I've done my part and now I release the rest. We spend so much time trying to force life to unfold the way we think it should. We wrestle with uncertainty, fearing that if we don't have control, everything will unravel. But in that relentless pursuit, we become exhausted, worn down not by the circumstances themselves, but by the weight of trying to control them. What if the peace we crave isn't found in figuring everything out, but in accepting that we don't have to? What if freedom isn't about having all the answers, but about trusting even when we don't? Letting go isn't about indifference, it's about intentionality. It's choosing to invest our energy where it matters most, in our actions, our character, our willingness to keep moving forward. Surrender doesn't strip us of responsibility, it frees us from the unnecessary burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. It invites us to release the fear, the anxiety, the constant questioning, and to embrace what we can control. Our courage, our resilience, our faith, that even when life feels uncertain, we are not lost. There's a moment somewhere between holding on and letting go where we discover who we really are, not as someone who has it all figured out, but as someone brave enough to admit they don't. And in that moment, we find a strength we didn't know we had, a clarity we couldn't see before, and a freedom that was waiting for us all along. Because sometimes the greatest act of trust is simply to let go and trust that even in surrender, we are exactly where we need to be. Life is messy. It rarely follows the script we've written in our minds. We map out our futures with precision, imagining smooth paths and clear skies, only to find ourselves standing in the middle of a storm we never saw coming. And in those moments when our plans unravel and our sense of control slips away, we often feel lost. But what if the messiness of life isn't something to fear? What if it's exactly where growth begins? We spend so much time resisting uncertainty, fighting against the unknown, as if it's something dangerous. But growth doesn't happen in the comfortable, predictable spaces. It happens when life pushes us into the deep end and asks us to trust that we won't drown. It happens when everything feels out of control, and yet somehow we find the strength to keep moving forward. The very moments we try so hard to avoid, the challenges, the detours, the unexpected turns, are often the ones that shape us the most. There's something transformative about surrendering to the unpredictability of life. When we stop trying to control every outcome, we open ourselves to lessons we never would have learned otherwise. We discover patience in the waiting, resilience in the struggle, and wisdom in the unknown. And as much as we crave certainty, it's often the uncertainty that reveals our deepest strength. The messy, unpredictable parts of life are not setbacks. They are the refining fires that mold us into who we are meant to be. It's easy to trust when everything is going according to plan, but real trust is built in the moments when nothing makes sense, when the path ahead is unclear, and when we're forced to let go of our need for control. And in those moments, something beautiful happens. We grow, not despite the chaos, but because of it. We learn that even when life feels uncertain, even when we don't have all the answers, we are still capable of becoming something extraordinary. And sometimes it's in the very places we fear the most that we find the strength we never knew we had. Trust is easy when life is smooth, when every piece fits perfectly into the puzzle we've envisioned. But real trust isn't built in comfort, it's built in uncertainty, in the moments when nothing is clear, when every instinct tells us to panic, and yet we choose to believe anyway. Trust is tested when the answers don't come, when the waiting feels unbearable, and when we have to release the very thing we've been holding on to so tightly. It's in that space, the messy, uncomfortable in-between, that trust is forged. There's a raw vulnerability in trusting without guarantees. It requires us to stand in the unknown, exposed, and uncertain, and still choose to believe that even though we can't see the path, it is there. That's the hard part, isn't it? Trusting not because we have proof, but because we have faith. And let's be honest, vulnerability is terrifying. It feels like standing on the edge of a cliff, hoping the ground will appear beneath our feet when we take that first step. But it's also where courage lives. Vulnerability and courage are inseparable, and trust asks for both. We crave control because it feels safe, but trust asks us to let go of that safety net, to release our grip on certainty, and to believe that even in the darkest moments, we are not abandoned. It's not a one-time decision, it's a daily practice. Every time we face disappointment, every time we encounter setbacks, every time life doesn't go as planned, we have to choose, will we let fear dictate our lives, or will we trust that even this, even the heartbreak, even the uncertainty has purpose? The truth is, trust isn't a feeling, it's a decision. It's choosing to show up, to keep going, even when nothing makes sense. It's acknowledging that while we don't have control over every circumstance, we do have control over how we respond. And when we make that choice day after day, something incredible happens. We begin to find peace in the uncertainty, strength in the struggle, and hope in the unknown. Trust, after all, is not about having all the answers. It's about believing that, even without them, we are exactly where we're meant to be. There's something beautiful about releasing what we cannot control. It feels counterintuitive at first, like giving up a fight we've been waging for too long. But the moment we stop trying to force life into our carefully crafted plans is the moment we open ourselves to possibilities we never saw coming. It's as if the weight we've been carrying, the endless worry, the constant need to manage every outcome, suddenly lifts, and in its place, there's space for hope, space for peace, space for the unexpected miracles we never thought to ask for. We spend so much time holding on, believing that if we loosen our grip, everything will fall apart. But sometimes it's our tight grip that keeps us from receiving what's meant for us. Letting go isn't easy. It requires trust, and trust requires vulnerability. But when we finally release the need to control every detail, we find that life often surprises us in the most profound ways. The doors we thought were closed forever swing open when we least expect it. The opportunities we never dreamed of appear out of nowhere. The peace we thought was unreachable settles quietly into our hearts. It's in this surrender that we find freedom. Freedom from the constant fear of what if. Freedom from the endless cycle of overthinking and overplanning. Freedom from the exhausting need to have it all figured out. And with that freedom comes clarity. We begin to see that not every unanswered question is a problem to solve. Not every delay is a denial. Not every challenge is a roadblock. Sometimes the things we fear the most, the unknowns, the unanswered prayers, the unfulfilled dreams, are simply the spaces where something better is being prepared for us. Letting go doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we start believing that life has a way of working things out even when we can't see how. It means trusting that while we may not have control over the process, we can have faith in the outcome. And when we do, we find that the very things we thought would break us often become the moments that shape us. In the end, it's not about forcing our way through life. It's about opening our hearts to what's possible when we finally let go. We are all works in progress, navigating life's uncertainties with hearts that crave clarity and minds that seek control. Yet no matter how much we plan or prepare, life has a way of reminding us that perfection is an illusion. We stumble, we falter, and sometimes we feel completely lost. But it is in these moments when everything feels out of control that we come face to face with our humanity. And there's something profoundly freeing about recognizing that we don't have to have it all together. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to control every outcome. We just have to keep showing up. There's a quiet strength in embracing our imperfections, in admitting that we don't have all the answers. Vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness, but the truth is, it takes immense courage to say, I don't know how this will turn out, but I'm still here. We are all figuring it out as we go, each of us carrying our own fears, doubts, and uncertainties. And that's okay. Life isn't about having it all figured out. It's about finding grace in the moments when we don't. It's about understanding that our worth isn't tied to our ability to control every detail, but to our willingness to keep moving forward even when the path is unclear. Perfection isn't the goal, progress is, and progress isn't linear. Some days we'll feel strong and certain, and other days we'll feel fragile and lost. But every step we take, no matter how small, is a testament to our resilience. We grow not because life is easy, but because we face challenges that stretch us, mold us, and teach us lessons we never knew we needed. It's in the messy, imperfect journey that we become who we are meant to be. So when life feels overwhelming, when the weight of uncertainty feels too heavy to bear, remember this: you don't have to carry it all. You don't have to have all the answers. You are allowed to be a work in progress, to trust the process even when you can't see the outcome. And in that trust, you'll find a strength you never knew existed, a strength that whispers, keep going. You're becoming something beautiful, even when you can't see it yet. Trusting when the answers aren't clear, when the way forward feels hidden, is one of the most challenging things we'll ever do. It requires a kind of faith that doesn't come easily to most of us, faith that doesn't demand certainty, but asks for belief in the unseen. We've all been there, standing at the edge of a decision, facing an unknown future, and wondering if we're making the right choice. The fear of the unknown is paralyzing, and the urge to control what we can't is overwhelming. But the truth is, we will never have all the answers, and that's not a weakness. It's an invitation. What if instead of fearing uncertainty, we embraced it? What if instead of trying to force every step, we allowed ourselves to take that first step in faith, even when we don't know where it will lead? Trust isn't about seeing the whole path ahead. It's about believing that the next step, the next moment will reveal itself in its own time. Trusting in the journey means surrendering to the process, even when it doesn't unfold the way we expect or hope. The most powerful moments of transformation in our lives often come from the spaces where we least expect them. It's when we stop trying to control the outcome, when we let go of our need for certainty, that life starts to flow in ways we never imagined. Trusting that things will unfold in their own time doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means showing up, doing the work, and then stepping back to let the rest of the story unfold without trying to force it. It's believing that the right things, the right opportunities, and the right people will come when the time is right, even if we don't have a clear view of the path ahead. In the moments when we can't see the way, trust asks us to remember this: we are not alone. We are not left to figure it all out on our own. There's a rhythm to life that we don't always understand, but that doesn't mean it isn't working. Trust is the belief that even in the waiting, even in the uncertainty, there is a plan unfolding that is far greater than anything we could have controlled. And when we choose to trust, even when we can't see the whole picture, we begin to step into the unknown with hope, knowing that each step, no matter how small, is leading us exactly where we need to be. In the end, trust isn't about having all the answers or controlling every outcome. It's about having the courage to step into the unknown, to show up even when the path ahead is unclear, and to believe that even in uncertainty, there is purpose. Life will never give us a perfect blueprint. It will never hand us the certainty we crave, the answers we want, or the control we think we need. But what it will give us is the opportunity to trust. Trust in the process, trust in ourselves, and trust in the bigger picture we can't always see. When we choose to let go of the need to control the uncontrollable, we create space for something far more powerful to take root: peace. It's a peace that comes not from knowing what's next, but from believing that whatever comes, we have everything we need to face it. It's a peace that quiets the chaos, that stills the doubts, and that allows us to move through life with an open heart, fully present to the moment, even in its messiness. This is where real transformation happens, when we stop fighting against life's uncertainties and start trusting in the beauty of the unknown. We stop wasting energy on what we can't change and start focusing on what we can, how we show up, how we respond, and how we choose to move forward with faith, not fear. Trust isn't easy. It's a choice we make every day, and it doesn't always come naturally. But the more we practice it, the more we see that life's greatest gifts often come from the moments we least expect. So let go of the weight you've been carrying. Release the need to control. Step into the uncertainty with an open heart, knowing that you are not alone in this journey. And trust that even in the places you can't see, there is a greater story being written, one that will unfold in its own perfect time. Because when we trust, we aren't just releasing our control, we're embracing the beautiful, unpredictable, and incredibly powerful journey that life truly is.